and we're sitting with a wonderful citizen of Dallas, Morton Meyerson. Mr. Meyerson, it's a pleasure to have you with us on the webcast. I want to talk, since this is all about young people this week, I want to talk about your earliest musical memory, because music has obviously meant so much to you in your life. What's the earliest experience you remember with music?
I believe the first memory was when I was 1 year old on a bassinet. My mother was playing the piano, and I heard it, and I waved my arms in time with the music. Now, I may have imagined that, or I may have dreamed that, but that's the first memory I have of music. But I was singing at age 2 and playing the piano at age 3, and I started taking classical music piano lessons at 4.
That's a good age to start. Rachel, you were 4 when you started, right?
I was, yeah.
It took me a little bit longer to get started. I was twice that. I was 8 by the time I started. So your mother...
Yeah, you were like a teenager.
Right? That's right. I was a teenager in piano years. So your mother must have been a pretty good pianist then?
My mother was a great pianist. She played the accordion, she sang. My father sang, played the drums, and I just kind of followed along.
So to her then, it was important. If she was playing to you in your crib, she must have thought that would sink in there, and that was an important experience for you to have at one.
Well, it actually went further than that. My mother played classical music to me when I was in utero.
Wow.
For 9 months, and then she played from the time of my birth forward. So I've been around music all of my life from the day of conception.
Wow. Wow. And you've been around these young people some this week too, as well. You gave them a tour, maybe, at the Meyerson Symphony Center.
I did a tour, and it was really quite something. I haven't given a tour to that many enthusiastic people at their age in a long time. I've given maybe 1,000 tours in my lifetime, but I've never had an opportunity to have that many musicians in the crowd. So when I was speaking, I could tell from their eyes and how they were reacting that they really were deeply into it. And there is one stupefying question I ask on stage, which I've asked for 30 years and never had anybody ever answer it correctly, and one of the students answered it correctly. I almost fainted.
What was it? Was it about the organ? I heard that it might have been about the organ.
It was about the organ.
What did he actually ask about the organ?
I asked him what the mathematical formula was for pipes, organ, and music. I just left it at that. And nobody has ever come close. I mean, some people guess it's got to do with the tone and so on and so forth. He gave me the formula, which is each octave, if you double the length or cut the length in half of an organ pipe, you go up an octave or down an octave because of the curve of the music. He's the only person that's ever answered that. I could not believe it.
Since the hall opened.
Since the hall
opened. So that's
opened.
where we get the 32, the 16, the 8, the 4, and on down.
That's it.
With organ stops. The Meyerson Symphony Center has been so important to the city of Dallas, of course. How do we, when the Meyerson Symphony Center was being built, I know it must have been important to you to see to it, insofar as you could, that it was going to be an acoustically splendid place for the Dallas Symphony to play. But that's not 100% foreseeable, is it? I mean, there's always a little special sauce when there's acoustics involved.
The facts are there is no known way to guarantee great acoustics. You can do all the things you need to do. You hire the great acoustician, you hire a great architect to go with the acoustician, you do everything right, you run computer models, and at the end of the day, until the first sound of music is produced in the hall, you just don't know. I did a lot of research as we were studying the hall, and it was clear to me that there was no hall in the 20th century that had been built that had great acoustics. So it was a daunting mission that they sent us on to go do that. I had 7 people on a small committee. We worked together for 10 years, and until the first downbeat of the first rehearsal in the hall, we had no idea what would happen. on the night when they did the first rehearsal, Dr. Bonelli, Gene Bonelli, was with me, who used to be at the Meadow School here. And the first note, I turned to him and smiled because I knew that we had done it.
That must have been a huge sigh of relief, right?
It was a phenomenal experience. It was one of the highlights of my life.
And it continues to be a highlight for so many, many people. Musicians certainly. I've had the privilege of being on that stage many times, and audiences alike. It's a beautiful, beautiful place for music. You say that there hadn't been successful concert halls, built right around in that time, but there had been some spectacular failures. Of course, so you had that go, right?
Well,
I mean, there had been some...
Actually, I studied several of the failures.
You didn't want that to happen in Dallas,
want that to
of
happen.
course.
But again, there's no guarantee, no matter what you do, that you're going to be successful. I thought we could minimize the risk that we'd have a disaster. And so we came at it from don't have a disaster, do the best job you can, and then wait for luck.
And it worked out. It worked
worked.
out beautifully. How important was it to you? Because one of the things, besides the acoustically splendid audience chamber, is also the public space in the Meyerson, the lobby space. There is so much of it. You never feel cramped inside the building. How important was that to you to have places for the people?
Well, our committee got together, we studied acoustics, we studied architecture, we went to many different halls around the world, small, medium, large, old, new, and what we wanted to do was write a brief for the architect and the acoustician, which we did. And when we wrote the brief, it basically was a 2-page manifesto. And what we said is we wanted the warmth of the hall, Concerto Bow, in terms of the sound. We wanted the clarity of Music Rheinsaal in Vienna. And we wanted to have an elegant space that people would be elevated as they came into the hall. They could hear people have electricity and energy in the air, but when they ascended to the hall, they would be prepared to listen to music in an elegant way. That's what we wrote down.
And that's what you got. And that is what you got. Morton Meyerson, we thank you for being with us tonight.